You're good.
Good evening and welcome to the July 11, 2023 Exeter Township Board of Supervisors meeting. This meeting is now called to order. At this time, please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You still there, Dave?
And it's on the inside too, so I don't know about
I take it he's there. Good evening, Larry. Would you care to call the roll this evening?
Sure. Supervisor Hughes?
Here.
Supervisor Bell?
Here.
Supervisor Gardella?
Here.
Supervisor Michelle?
Here.
Supervisor Wilmer?
here.
All present.
All present.
Thank you, Larry. And for those on the television, David Vollmer is calling in by phone this evening. We'll move along to the agenda. We do have an agenda amendment this evening, and it is there's a time sensitivity to it, so I'll make the motion I move to declare a state of emergency for Exeter Township.
Please move to amend the agenda.
Oh, that's right, yes, excuse me. So I move to amend the agenda to add an item which would be a declaration of disaster emergency for Exeter Township. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
To the agenda amendment? Having a motion and a second, this item was not on the original agenda, so would anybody in the public wish to comment on just this one item? If so, please step forward. Okay. Seeing none, I will now open any debate to the board for this item before calling the vote. This agenda amendment item.
Like the floor.
Supervisor Gardella, the floor is yours.
So I would just like to ask for an explanation so that, it's clear what it is that we're trying to do with this item on the agenda. So I don't know whether that's Larry or Betsy or.
It behooves the township to declare an emergency. It helps us get funds from the state and possibly from the federal government. Yeah.
Thanks.
Does that satisfy?
That's it for me.
And so any other debate on this amendment to the agenda?
No.
Calling the vote for agenda amendment. All those in favor of adding this item, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? 5-0 vote on the agenda amendment. I subsequently move to declare the declaration of disaster emergency for Exeter Township. Is there a second on that motion?
I will second it.
Thank you, Supervisor Kircher. Having a motion and a second, is there any debate requested among the board members?
I've none.
Hearing none, calling the vote. All those in favor of passing the motion of declaration of disaster emergency Exeter Township, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? 5-0 vote.
Can we sign it now?
So I will pass this along. The four present board members, I'm going to ask for your signature immediately so we can forward it to the state before 8 o'clock. So. I'll get
Under secretary. Larry, you can attest it.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. We'll move on with the agenda. while Larry faxes that over. But we have an announcement this evening. Chief, would you like to do the honors?
Just want to say with the incident happening yesterday from the police department, our prayers go out to the people that were affected by that. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, two township managers, the command staff, and the entire Exeter Township Police Department, I would like to welcome everyone for this special ceremony tonight of promotion of 3 officers. My name is Matthew Harley. I'm the Chief of Police at Exeter Township, and I proudly serve the Police Department. Today is a very, very special day for these 3 men. We're going to be promoting Sean Fullerton to Lieutenant, and Officer Craig Downs and Nathan Daniels to Sergeant. Before I get started, I'd like to say something to the 3 officers that are getting promoted. I have the pleasure of working with each and every one of you in a capacity of one way or another. I've always been impressed with your strong work ethic, your professionalism, and your dedication to the police department and the community. It is really important to acknowledge the hard work and sacrifice you have made to this point. You 3 have been preparing for this opportunity your entire lives, and these promotions are well deserved. I'd like to introduce the command staff tonight. I have Detective Sergeant Rocco DiCamillo, Lieutenant Steve Schaefer, and Patrol Sergeant Gregory Davis. This is not only a special day for these 3 officers, it's also a special day for their family and friends. This is a journey that started a long, long time ago, and that's a big reason, the family is a big reason why they're promoted tonight. I know that I would not be standing here if it wasn't for my wife and my loved ones and my kids. It's very difficult for loved ones to live in a household of a police officer. They routinely miss holidays, weekends, family gatherings, engagements, schools, activities, and sports activities. They regularly stay late for work. They get called into work. I can keep going on and on. It's not easy to be a family member of a police officer. So I'd like to extend a special thank you to these families sitting in this crowd tonight. These 3 officers would not be getting promoted if it wasn't for your support and guidance. So thank you. I'd like to have Lieutenant Sean Fullerton come up to the front here, please. I don't know if you realize how big a deal is to get promoted as a lieutenant in this police department. There's only ever been 5 lieutenants previously in this entire police department since 1949. The other 5 lieutenants were Jerry Radke, which became Chief of Police, Donnie Hartenstein, Christopher Neidert, which became Chief of Police, Lieutenant Steve Schaefer, myself, and now you, Sean. I'd like to give everyone a short bio why he's getting promoted tonight. Lieutenant Sean Fullerton has been a police officer for 20 years. He is a graduate of the Philadelphia Police Academy and holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Franklin University in Criminal Justice. Lieutenant Fullerton is married and has a daughter. Lieutenant Fullerton comes from a proud family of civil servants and understands what it means to serve the community. Lieutenant Fullerton is a police supervisor who is community-minded and understands that communication and public trust are the key to the success of our mission. He is well-versed in executive-level policing, critical decision-making, and officer development. He understands that he needs to invest in fellow officers by identifying their talents and showcasing their individual skills for the benefit of the police department and the township as a whole. He lives and works in this township. He is truly invested in this department and community. Lieutenant Fullerton is proud of the men and women of this police department, and he loves his job. A couple things about Lieutenant Fullerton. He was Sergeant of D Platoon for the past 6 years, and we have not received one officer complaint from his platoon since in those 6 years. It's pretty incredible. He has been the Public Information Officer and Media Relations Officer. He runs our Facebook page. And if we need an interview or a media comes here, Lieutenant Fullerton is our guy. He has been leading our police community initiatives and he's one of the main reasons why we have the best community policing efforts in the county. He's been awarded commendations for an investigative arrest, bravery, and felony arrest. And he's also a graduate of a 6-week FBI executive training program. Lieutenant Fullerton will head 2 major divisions in the police department, Traffic Safety Unit and Detective Unit. He will also head our community policing initiatives, our public information functions, and oversee all our FBI and PSP database compliance, as well as multitude administration functions. I have a message for you, Lieutenant Fullerton. You will now take on a major role as a manager within this organization. You must think broadly about the entire organization and the township now, and it impacts the entire community. Your concerns must be based on policies and procedures, public perception, strategic planning, staffing, and civil liability. It's imperative that you continue to focus on making sure these officers and departments continue to follow our core values. Our core values are professionalism, integrity, courage, service, and partnership. You would not be standing in front of all of us if we did not have complete confidence in your ability to fulfill all those expectations. I'd like to make it official, put the bars on you. All right, the certificate of promotion.
The Chief of Police, having special trust and confidence in the fidelity and abilities of Sean Fullerton, I do appoint him a lieutenant within the Exeter Township Police Department, to rank as such from the 10th day of July, 2023. This appointee will therefore carefully and diligently discharge the duties of the grade to which appointed, and will continue to lead with professionalism, partnership, service, integrity, and courage. And I do strictly charge all personnel of lesser grade to render obedience to appropriate orders. Matthew F. Harley, Chief of Police.
Thank you, Chief. I'll be brief. I just want to say thank you to my family and my friends for their constant support. Without that support, I wouldn't have the career that I have. I want to say to our officers and the people of this township that I will not let you down. As a resident of this township myself, I'm lucky to live in an area that has such a high-functioning police department. I want the residents of Exeter to know that they can have confidence in our department and know that when they call 911, they will get a response from the best trained, most professional, and most community-oriented police department in this county. I also want the criminal element to know that they need to take their business elsewhere. We're going to continue to get drug traffic off the streets. We're going to continue to lock up violent offenders. We'll continue to lock up those who defraud our most vulnerable residents. And we're going to do it with an unmatched commitment to the residents of this township. I'm so proud of these officers, of this police department, and we'll continue to make you proud of this police department as well. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like Sergeant Nathan Daniels and Sergeant Greg Downs to step up front, please. Before I begin, I have a message for the 2 new sergeants here. It's a major step for you in the department getting promoted tonight. One that carries increased expectations both internally and externally. Many will agree that sergeants are the frontline supervisors and the backbone of the police department. You will play many different roles in the course of a day, and you are expected to excel at all of them. It's a tremendous amount of pressure, and we all have the confidence that you can handle it. You will be expected to consistently demonstrate main tenets of procedure justice by treating people with dignity and respect, giving residents a voice during encounters, being neutral in decision-making, maintain personal and professional integrity, and be the model of leadership to the rest of the men in this department. People don't realize when lieutenants and myself leave for the evening, the sergeant is responsible for the safety and welfare of the entire township. That includes 27,000 residents, 25 square miles of area to cover, and thousands of people that travel through the township during that time. I always would say, anyone can be a sergeant on the good days. It's the bad and the hard days we need leaders to step up, take control, and make quick decisions and resolve the problems. I have complete confidence in both of you that you will excel and deliver in those critical times. I'd like to give you a little information about these two gentlemen up here. I'm going to start with Sergeant Craig Downs, since he's been here the longest. He was born and raised in Michigan. After graduation, Sergeant Downs enlisted in the U.S. Army as an airborne military police officer. While serving, he was deployed to Panama for Operation Just Cause, and then to Iraq, Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Sergeant Downs met his wife, Michelle, while serving in the U.S. Army, and they have 4 children and 2 grandchildren. Sergeant Downs has been an officer for the past 30 years. His first job was in Borough of Kutztown in 1994 until he got hired in Exeter. He's been with Exeter for 22 years. It's a special moment for myself because Sergeant Downs and myself got hired together. So I'm really proud of you. He was a founding member of the Berks County Emergency Response Team, where he held a position of assistant team leader. It's a pretty big deal. He has extensive supervisor and leadership training. He's a firearms instructor, a canine handler, a less lethal instructor, a defense tactic instructor for the police department. He's a field training officer. He's a first aid and CPR instructor, which is an EMT, a waymaster, a bike officer, and he has extensive accident training. He's very talented. He's a very talented officer. Some of the skills that I think that you possess, the reason why you're in this position tonight, is that you're mission-oriented, you're safety-driven, you're trusting, you're well-trained, focused, and creative. So I'd like to make it official tonight, giving your honor to your wife to be able to pin you. So Michelle, can you come up and pin Sergeant Downs?
All right, your certificate of promotion. The Chief of Police, having special trust and confidence in the fidelity and abilities of Craig Downs, I do appoint him a sergeant within the Exeter Township Police Department to rank as such from the 10th day of July, 2023. This appointee will therefore carefully and diligently discharge the duties of the grade to which appointed and will continue to lead with professionalism, partnership, service, integrity, and courage. I do strictly charge all personnel of lesser grade to render obedience to appropriate orders. Matthew Harley, Chief of Police.
Sergeant Nate Daniels. He grew up in Laureldale, so he's a Berks County resident. He graduated from Muhlenberg High School. He was captain of the football team, and he was served as quarterback. And he's in the Muhlenberg Wall of Fame for his accomplishments in high school. He's also an Eagle Scout. He then went to East Stroudsburg University, where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in exercise science. He also played football at East Stroudsburg University, where he was team captain, and he also received a special award. It's called the Red Shirt Award. It's voted by the teammates, which you have about 100 football players on a team, for the person that exemplifies the most leadership. It's pretty impressive. Sergeant Daniels joined the Army ROTC program, and he was commissioned as an officer in 2013. Officer Daniels served with the PA Army National Guard for 8 years. In 2013, he was D Company platoon leader and gave assessments on a large-scale transportation equipment operations. In 2015, he was promoted to first lieutenant, where he was baton Battalion Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear Officer. He led and trained over 200 soldiers in self-decon and aircraft decon and advised the battalion commander of matters of planning and operations. Officer Daniels graduated from the Temple Police Academy, where he earned the Frank Taylor Award for Leadership. That's like the MVP award for the Academy. After Academy, he got hired by Exeter Township Police Department, where he was an FTO officer, and now he's a member of the Berks County Emergency Response Team. He was selected as a team mentor for all the new members. Officer Daniels currently resides in Exeter Township, and he has a wife and son and daughter. Some of the special skills I feel that you exemplify is that your leadership skills, your problem solving, your mentoring, your communication, you're proactive, and you're tactical. So let's make this official and pin you.
Certificate of Promotion. The Chief of Police, having special trust and confidence in the fidelity and abilities of Nathan Daniels, I do appoint him a sergeant within the Exeter Township Police Department to rank as such from the 10th day of July 2023. This appointee will therefore carefully and diligently discharge the duties of the grade to which appointed and will continue to lead with professionalism, partnership, service, integrity, and courage. I do strictly charge all personnel of lesser grade to render obedience to appropriate orders. Matthew Harley, Chief of Police.
In closing, on behalf of the Police Department and the Board of Supervisors, I would again like to congratulate you three for your promotions tonight. I could not be more proud of these officers, and I know you will be proud of them too. I expect excellence, and I know these officers will deliver on those expectations. I would also like to thank the rest of the Exeter Township Police Department. I believe that Exeter PD is a state example of what a 21st century police department should be, and I'm incredibly proud of this police department. Again, thank you for everyone attending, and thank you for your time, and congratulations.
Ken, do you want to make a?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for a quick recess to allow pictures and
Okay.
all the rest.
No, we already got it.
Oh, you're all set? Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's a great idea, so I guess they got already all pictured up.
Alrighty. Oh, that was great. Now the fun begins.
No, it's an important day, Chief. We're good. I think maybe.
Can they move up?
You can fill in the seats.
Okay, and thanks again,
Thank you.
Chief, for the
Thank you
presentation.
for your time.
We'll now move along to public comments, this time on the agenda items. We'll start with Jerry Geloff, and I'll ask that you state your name in town for the record.
Good evening. Jerry Yelliff, 106 Michelle Drive in Farming Ridge. A few things, folks. One, I'd like to say an official goodbye to Betsy McBride, as I may not make the final meeting that she'll attend. I'd like to give Betsy a parting gift so that she'll always remember her time here in Exeter. This is a 4 Gator 1 t-shirt, which commemorates the mathematically challenged belief of people on this board that one person's vote can cancel out the votes of 4 others, as in, we keep trying to get things done, and he stops us every time. You'll remember us with this. Secondly, I'd like to tell you that I consider your latest and dumbest possible censure of one of your members to be exactly that dumb. Stupid beyond belief, as the first one was. Because it will accomplish nothing but to allow you to grandstand to your cheerleaders on the golf course, to whom you are funneling tons of our taxpayer money through a $70 per round played subsidy because of the massive losses of the Reading Country Club. Third, in the meeting minutes, your discussion of legal insurance protection for Betsy for a term of 5 years. Is there any end to the amount of money that you people will waste to score dumb points? If Betsy has done nothing wrong, and I don't think she has done anything wrong, some mystical, magical lawsuit can't just be conjured up to file against her. There has to be a basis in law for a lawsuit to move forward. We learned that here in Exeter Township when you people sued me and were forced to drop the suit because you knew there was no basis in reality for your action, and that my First Amendment folks' lawyers were going to call for sanctions against Chad Schnee for bringing a baseless suit. You see, lawyers take their profession quite seriously, and sanctions against a lawyer are brought because the action in court is viewed as having done something to harm their profession. So stop wasting our money, and just as importantly, our time, on your grandstanding to your little minions, as you derogatorily call the supporters of Dave Hughes, also known as the citizens of Exeter Township.
Next, we have Donna Merritt, if you'd state your name and town for the record as well.
Okay. Hello, my name is Donna Merritt. I live in Exeter Township. I don't have a prepared speech. I've been busy cleaning up my property from water. So anyway, I'm just here because of the agenda item to censure the elected Township Supervisor, David Hughes. Like Jerry, I agree. It's beyond over the top. It's ridiculous. You're wasting our time, you're wasting our money, you know. And I'm really upset to be here because I have things to do. But you know what? You guys caused me to be here, and I have to say this, and I have to let the townspeople or the Exeter Township know that what you guys are doing, again, is like Jerry said, it's just grandstanding. It's baseless. He didn't break the law, and then you had one of our finest escort him out the room. That's like humiliating on purpose for absolutely doing nothing but asking you a question. It seems like you want to silence people all the time. Anybody who asks you a question, asks you for a different opinion, asks you to try to find a cheaper lawyer, you just shut up. It's not right. We're the taxpayers, okay? You deserve to work for us, all right? Not to sit there and belittle an elected official. Remember, you guys were appointed. He was elected, over 3,000 votes. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I just feel that sometimes it's so ugly in here, that's why I don't come anymore. And it reminds me of Romans 1:28. Even as they did not like to retain their God in their knowledge, God gave them over to the reprobate minds. And that's what I believe you people are. And then he told me, finally he said, brothers and sisters, whatever's true, whatever's noble, whatever's right, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, whatever's admirable, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think on these things. I'm not thinking about you guys anymore, or your little minions on social media who are so juvenile, it's ridiculous. But again, to censor David is ridiculous. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Lastly, we have Conrad Capelin. If you could lead off with your town as well, name and town for me.
Exeter Township.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Conrad Capelin, Ole Turnpike Road, Exeter Township. Just wanted to comment on two things. First, the censure under the administration. So this happened a year ago, where the board censured Mr. Hughes. At that time, now Vice Chair Gardella stated that any activity that was censured once could not be censured again. You can only censure someone one time for an act. I was hoping that the agenda packet would include the text of the censure resolution. It does not, so it makes it difficult for me to check to see whether or not it overlaps with the prior censure, which I should hope that it does not. I will also remind three of the supervisors that are here, Gardella, Bell, and Kircher, that all three of them have made statements at some point during the past year that the censure of David Hughes did not bear fruit. It didn't work. It didn't force him to conform to the demeanor and behavior that you had expected of him. So it's my concern that we're going to go through this same activity again and waste time and energy on censure that, having not seen the text, I don't know if it's even proper, but certainly I don't think that anyone at this table is really expecting it to mean anything or anything to come of it of benefit. Somewhat related, there will be an impromptu ice cream social outside the front of the building this evening. It's a lovely summer day, and I would like to invite everyone here who does not vote to move forward or affirm a motion of censure of any of the members of the board to the ice cream social. And to the board, I would just ask that you weigh the value of free ice cream and a meaningless censure motion that wastes everyone's time. Thank you very much. The ice cream social tonight is going to be sponsored by Jerry Gullett Media and Exeter Sports Network. The school being out for the summer, this is an opportunity to give back to the community during this lovely summer that we have. Thank you.
Okay, this evening, that concludes the public comment on the agenda items. Next, we have approvals.
We have Andy Gildner.
Oh, yeah, let's not skip it. Andy. Andy, I tried skipping you. Is Andy here? There he is. I didn't try too hard, but we do have a presentation. My apologies. The presentation is Keystone Technologies, Andrew Gildner.
Yes, sir.
You go by Andy, though, right?
Anything but late for dinner.
Bless you. And Andy, floor is yours for your presentation.
Thank you. I've provided already a copy. Can you guys hear me okay? It's okay. A copy of the plan that we've put together for the township. And it is broken into three sections. There's a section on infrastructure, a section on workstation upgrades for multiple years, and additional considerations. I will point out one thing that was removed from the packet was regarding MFA and the need to do multi-factor authentication within the organization. We're seeing it from the cyber liability perspective for the insurance companies, as well as on the police department from the FBI. So we're hearing this on both sides. We do need to move forward on multi-factor authentication. And the way I broke this down was to eliminate redundancies in efforts as much as I could. So I'm here to entertain any questions for you guys. Betsy did ask me to do this since budgeting season is upon you all, and we wanted to talk about the needs for the township's IT.
So I do know we all received the information packet. Does any board member wish questions of Andy at this time?
I have none.
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
So the floor is yours.
So, Andy, I know that you've broken this down
Yes.
into functionality. Can you give us a sense of breaking this down cost-wise per year?
Per year?
For the budgeting process? So
Absolutely. I can-
what is 2023
Sure.
cost, 2024, 2025?
I can prepare that for you guys and put that out in a spreadsheet and send that to Betsy for distribution.
Okay,
Or
thank you.
Larry, one of them. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. Just take a note on that, guys. No problem. Sorry. I'm going to make sure I take my notes.
That's good. Did that conclude your
Yes.
question? Do any of the other supervisors have a question for Andy?
Can we talk a little bit more?
Yeah.
Andy, could you mention the estimated cost by different locations so the public can hear that we need to do some fiber work done at the township building and that sort of thing?
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. In the first section, sure. We did point out that Service Electric has actually come forward in the township, and they've agreed to run fiber to each of the municipal parks at no cost to the township. That is a huge savings, and I personally wanted to thank them publicly for that offer. We do have to light the fiber. In other words, we have to put adapters on the fiber to make it work, but that cost is very minimal. It is dark fiber, so it's dedicated just to the township on the poles, and they will maintain it at no cost to the township. I did also ask them for better fiber optic service coming into the township building. Right now, we do not have fiber. We're running on cable modems, and we would like to upgrade that to fiber. They quoted a price of $658 a month for 2 connections, one for the police side and one for the admin side. And then that way, that would provide us with the bandwidth that's being requested for streaming and also more stable internet than we have now.
So that leads to another question from me.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Andy, I appreciate what Service Electric did to provide the fiber connectivity. Do they have an obligation with the contract that they have with us to provide any kind of, community broadcast for us? Like, can we have a township channel through them?
I don't know. That's really not on the IT side per se. It's more so on, I would probably defer to Chad about what's in the franchise agreement. To check the franchise. I don't know what's in the franchise agreement.
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
I'm just thinking of anticipating, if we do move forward with the communications position, that could be, a viable communications strategy, that there be a township broadcast once a week or whatever.
It was part of the original agreement with Comcast. There was a community access kind of a channel
Right.
allowed, and the township just didn't take it up on at that time, but certainly something we could reopen and re-explore later on.
Sure. I know a lot of our municipalities actually use it with the school districts as well.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
The floor is yours.
I'm familiar with the agreement. It has been for many years. There's an option for us to have a channel. The contract also shares this channel with Amity and 1 or 2 other townships. None of them use it. I urged the board before I was a supervisor to take action on this, and it was just ignored. So there is opportunity there for us to have a channel and do things like broadcast our video on the channel. One of the arguments was, well, they'd have to come here with a camera and set up all these things. It would be expensive. Well, it's no longer necessary. We could just give them our video. In fact, we could broadcast it live to them, and they can do it, I think. But that's the situation. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Chairman, may I say something?
Sure, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just wanted the board to be aware that I don't have the pricing in front of me, exactly what Andy put together, but we've had these conversations, and I just received an email today that it's going to be required by our police department by October 1st of 2024 that all our computer devices will have to have multi-factor or dual authentication on each device. I don't know what that cost is. It's going to be required by law by the FBI that we have it completed by October 1st, 2024. So I know for budgeting purposes, that will have to be put in our budget for next year.
Correct. And we've also been told by the cyber liability folks that if these things are not in place, they will not renew the township cyber policy. So it does have to be done in advance. Betsy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that renews in May. So it would have to be done before May. So the chief will be in good, in a good place as long as we meet that May deadline. But I wanted to open this dialogue now because it is something that takes a long time to do. It's not something we can just do overnight.
Oh, that's good. I think this was a good discussion. I would look forward to
We'll break
that
that down.
that multi-year
Yeah,
pro forma.
that's no problem, guys.
Cost would be most helpful for us, though, too.
I can tell you, if we're hit with ransomware, you're going to be looking at major money and shutdown of all our computer systems. It'd be very wise to look into this as soon as possible.
Your average cost would be in the 7 to 8 figure category. It is substantial.
Yes. And we were attempted a month ago,
Yeah.
our police department.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
I don't believe there's any further questions. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks for your appearance. Now that brings us to approvals. First, I have the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes and the disbursements for this evening.
You would like, just to make sure I got it, you would like to do a consent agenda on those two items under
Yes,
approvals?
yes, please.
Is there a second for consent agenda of
I'll
minutes?
second that.
So I have a motion and a second for consent agenda of approvals, essentially minutes and disbursements. Having a motion and a second, is there any debate on those items?
Yes, I have, you're trying to pass these without any discussions on this. These minutes are not complete. Who wrote these minutes? Was it Betsy? Did you write these? or-
I have hired someone to do the minutes.
You have
Point of
hired,
order,
but
is
you're
this discussion on the motion?
putting
Discussion
your
on the
name on it,
minutes.
right?
Okay.
The minutes are missing a couple
One
very
second,
important.
1 second, please. So point of order received, because this is just a motion to tag them together. There still would be debate.
Okay, so let me talk about that. I don't think we should tag them together. Perhaps the minutes will have to not be approved because there's some changes, times that are not in there. You didn't put the times that I left the meeting and the time that I came back from the meeting. Disbursements might get, of course, will get approved, but the minutes may be amended.
Does anybody else wish to speak on the consent agenda aspect? So,
I'm fine with that.
okay, so I'm going to call the vote on aggregating the two approvals as a consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Guess what? Nay.
So 4-1 on consent agenda. Now, we still have opportunity for debate on these items, though, would anyone wish the floor? Sounded like you did, Supervisor Hughes.
Yes.
Floor is yours.
There's a number of items that are not mentioned in this meeting, are in these minutes. I didn't know first of all, I didn't know we were paying someone to do the minutes again, but, and we flip-flop back and forth between the minutes in this form and in the form of, never mind. So anyway, when I left the meeting, Supervisor Hughes left the meeting of his own accord, which is not accurate. I think the video, in fact, the minutes themselves clearly expressed Chief Harley was requested to remove Supervisor Hughes. That doesn't sound like I left the meeting on my own accord. And I calculated the time that I left, and you can check this, at 40 minutes and 15 seconds. Later on, when I finally came back, found out that you guys did not vote to remove me from the meeting, which was illegal to begin with. I came back, and you don't record the time that I came back into the meeting, which was, according to my calculations, 61 minutes and 4 seconds. And also, during the time that I was illegally forced out of the meeting, you did business, you voted 4-0 on some contracts, and you violated my rights to be involved in that discussion and to vote. In fact, I was sitting right here in the public seating when you voted 4-0 to give KMS a $22,500 contract to do our budget. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys understand how much this should really cost. We could get other firms to help us for less than $5,000. So these are some of the things that are wrong with the report. And it says here on this one that Larry, the interim township manager, did you do these minutes, Larry?
No, I did not.
Well, then who did you pay to do the minutes and you didn't put your name on it? Ms. McBride, you put Larry's name on it. I mean, what kind of shenanigans are going on here?
Sir, there's no shenanigans going on.
Who did you pay then?
For the record, Supervisor Hughes in December filed a criminal complaint against me with the district attorney's office, and now I'm
Point
being
of order,
accused of shenanigans. No, there's no
Chairman,
point of
this-
order here.
This-
I've had it with
This
you.
has nothing to do with the agenda item. You're talking about the minutes. I asked the question, who did the minutes?
I told
I'm
you.
told that,
All right. Please
Chairman
conclude your
Bell, she's
remarks.
out of order.
Please continue your
I'm just
remarks.
Criminal
asking the
complaint is
question.
out of
So
order.
I'm a little confused. Larry, his name is on this. I just asked him and he didn't do it. I'm told by our manager that she paid someone else to do it.
Who
And
will
I
be doing
want to
it
know,
tonight.
who did we pay to do this?
We paid someone who will be doing it tonight and going forward unless a new board gets rid of her.
Excuse me, point of order, Chairman Bell. You all passed a motion on June 12th. I'm not supposed to be talking to her, so I can't answer her when she
No, but
talks
you
to me.
can
You
file
said
criminal
everyone goes
complaints
through you,
against
sir.
Right.
Okay?
You did engage her, though, this evening. You-
Well, then I was out of order, wasn't I? And you didn't say anything.
He was
Staff-
cutting you a break,
So
which
the-
he does
I was
every
really
meeting.
talking to you, Chairman.
The well-mentioned motion that you refer deals with communication request of staff's time, not during this meeting.
I looked at the motion. It said, and I can pull it up if you like, I have it here ready.
That's
It
okay.
said the motion is all communications.
I'm just wondering how you only got 3 friends to speak for you in public comment. Shit, I thought you'd have a handful.
Supervisor
You can snicker and
Hughes.
laugh about it.
So was the
Not it.
criminal complaint.
I'm asking you about the minutes. Who are we, Mr. Chairman Bell, tell me.
That is
Who
on
are
the-
we paying to do the minutes
That
tonight?
is on the agenda later this evening.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Do I have this time, do I need to also talk about the
You do. It's a consent agenda. So you would
disbursements as well?
You would kindly make all comments in this window.
Can I talk about the?
Floor is still
disbursements?
yours.
Okay, thank you. On the disbursements, I requested invoices, which I did receive in a timely manner. However, the disbursements has a line item where we duplicated a payment to a vendor. And we also have invoices from RHM that have not been processed since May. We're missing 5 invoices from 5 activities, money that we should have collected certainly by now. So I'm sure I'm not going to get the answer on why these monies are missing. I did get a procedure for the accounts payable, and I think I see one of the problems that we have. The procedure requires a stamp where it shows us the receipt, the day of the receipt, okay? None of RHM invoices have a stamp on when it was received, none of them. None of the ones that I've looked at since the 4th quarter. So I'm not sure that we're following the procedure, and then the few that I have that do have the received on, I can't read them, my copies, I can't read them. So there's a lot of unusual things going on with our disbursement. We've paid, in these minutes, $327,000 check made out to the wrong vendor. It just doesn't seem to be an issue. There's no excuse or reason. Now, the duplicate payment on these disbursements that you're going to approve tonight, how did that happen? This is something that we should know explicitly how it happened so that we can put into place some type of controls to ensure that it doesn't happen. And we've had this problem, I can tell you, we've had duplicate payments since I've been following this, since early 2019. It happens every year. Most of it gets swept under the table.
Oh.
But how does this happen? There's procedures, there are controls that would prevent this, but it continues to happen in this township. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is there any other debate on the consent agenda items?
I have a comment, if I may.
The floor is yours.
Supervisors are used. Why don't you, when you have these questions, call and try and get corrected before the meeting? That's what all the rest of us do if we have anything. Why can't you do that? Why must we sit here and debate instead of moving forward on items that could have been already taken care of? That's it.
That's it. Okay. It doesn't sound like there's any other comments at this time. So we passed the motion this evening to aggregate the two into one. But we now need a motion to.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll second it.
So having a motion and a second to approve both items, is there any final debate on that? Hearing none, calling the vote. All those in favor of approving both items in the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
He said aye.
He said aye. Thank you. Those opposed?
Nay.
So we have 4-1 passage of the consent agenda items. Moving next to zoning planning. Good evening.
Good evening. This evening, there's two applications for signal approval that are this evening for the board to take action. And just to give a little bit of a background, PennDOT in their program has upgrade or will be upgrading two of our traffic signals, one at East Neversink Road and Hartstone Drive for signal timing pertaining to pedestrians, some timing adjustments, but this is to update our pedestrian signals as well as our actuation to current standards, as well as the intersection of DeMoss Road and Perkiomen and 47th Street. This is, since both these signals are owned and operated by the township, even though the project will be funded by PennDOT, we still need to complete an application for signal approval, which they call the TE 160 form, that this evening we're seeking a motion from the board to have the proper staff member execute the document and resubmit back to PennDOT, and then they will approve the condition diagram, and then the condition diagram will then be returned to the township for the proper signature. The condition diagrams drafts have been sent to the township staff. I took a look at them. It reflects what they're proposing as far as new pedestrian signal heads and some slight pedestrian timing changes and so forth. My recommendation would be for the board to consider approving both these TE 160 forms this evening.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
We said we don't have a motion on the table yet, so please, the floor is yours.
So I did not see that you were seeking a motion with this item. So you're seeking a motion, and if Jason's here, if he can, provide any clarity on this, do we need to approve the submission of a form? Because it's just not clear from this item.
The form needs to be signed by the township, and I guess I'll defer to the solicitor whether we need a formal motion or this can be a directive by the board to have the manager execute the form. Essentially, what we're doing is accepting the changes since it's our traffic signal. PennDOT has a program now that we already entered into a maintenance agreement contract This form has been, I'll say, simplified to a one-page form. Essentially, what it's saying is we're agreeing to allow PennDOT to perform these changes on our traffic signals since we are responsible for the maintenance and ownership.
And did this go in front of the planning commission? Did they have anything, or is this form just,
No, this did not go in front of the planning commission since it was non-planning related. It basically came from PennDOT as through an email that they were going to be performing these changes.
Pardon me for a second. I want to see if, Chad, can you weigh in on, at this point, whether,
Based on Joe's representation, it sure sounds administrative in nature. Doesn't sound like it's going to require the expenditure of any township funds based on what
Correct.
Joe's saying. So I think staff could sign this without a
you.
motion.
Thank you, Solicitor. Did that appease your inquiry, I
Yeah.
believe? So,
I just didn't know whether, because it didn't say that it was discussion and motion, and when I read the forms, it didn't look like it really required any.
no, I understand. Well, thank you, Joe. It sounds like staff can handle that one for us. And then number 2 is discussion and possible action regarding, Lorraine Nursery property. If we could just clarify for the folks that we're talking about authorization for a public hearing and not moving forward on anything at this time.
Sure, yes. The representatives of Metropolitan Development Group approached the Planning Commission, I believe, back in February of this year, requesting a zoning change, and essentially this is for the property that's behind Home Depot, that's between Lorraine Road and Home Depot. It's currently light industrial. There is a area that's urban residential. They're requesting they're requesting the township to consider a zoning map change to extend that boundary of the urban residential to encompass that area of the lower light industrial to allow for apartments to be constructed or to be proposed. The urban residential zoning district allows for townhouses and apartments. It also needs to meet conditions of Section 390-66, which is a separate section in our zoning ordinance that outlines the criteria for having townhouses having so many units for density per acre and so forth. Representatives, I believe, are here this evening. However, they did present this to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, in turn, then voted in favor of the applicant to move to the Board of Supervisors for a request for the Board of Supervisors to consider to have a public hearing for the possible change in the zoning map.
So I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we deny authorization to advertise a public hearing for the zoning map change.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to deny the public hearing for the zoning map change. Any debate here?
I'd like the floor.
Floor is yours, Supervisor Gardella.
I continue to hear from residents that they are very concerned about this possible development, and I think that advertising a public hearing is premature. I don't think that enough has been done to assuage the community's concerns about this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gardella.
I'd like to say something, George.
So Supervisor Vollmer, I'll be to you in a second. I just acknowledged Supervisor Hughes, so I'll get to you. Okay, just a minute. Supervisor Hughes, you're next.
Thank you. I'm opposed to rezoning or remapping this. We actually updid all the zoning areas in 2019. We had hearing after hearing, and it was a long process. I think it's kind of ridiculous to squeeze in high volume residential between commercial and light industrial. That's what's going on here. And by their own admission, our light industrial zoning area, only 50% of it may be usable. So if this is a usable area, I'd like to see it used for light industrial. It's the only areas that we have to invite companies to come in and build and perform their business. So I also have feedback from the two meetings. They kind of held their own public hearing at the Reading Country Club twice, and the feedback from the people there was negative, opposed to this project being granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hughes. Supervisor Vollmer, you're up.
Yeah, I'm going to vote no against this because I believe that this public hearing should go through. And I get a kick out of Supervisor Gardella and Supervisor Hughes stating how they hear all this information, but they couldn't take their time and energy to go to the 2 other meetings, which were very productive, and the majority of the people in the room were for it. So they're claiming these claims without even being in the room and doing their due diligence. So it's just mind-blowing to me that we can't hold a public hearing and let people come and voice their opinion and see what they say, because it's amazing that the landowners next to these, that are next to this development, are for this. And, we got to listen to those people, because, if they would rather have apartment complexes than a warehouse with tractor trailers and other truck traffic coming in and out, it's a good thing. So, the people that are calling this out didn't even take the time to come to the meetings and listen to it like I did. I went to both of them, and I got a lot of information from it, and it made me change my mind on how I thought about the process. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Supervisor Vollmer. Do you have anything to add, Supervisor Kircher, at this time?
No, not
Okay.
at this time.
So the only thing I would add then is I have several concerns about the project still to this day, although I am amenable to a public hearing just to hear more from what the public has to say. So I would be okay with the public hearing. But is there any, before I call the vote, would there be anybody who wants round 2 of the floor?
Just for a point of clarification.
Very good. The floor is yours,
So I
Vice
will
Chair Gardella.
remind Supervisor Vollmer that I did attend the first meeting that was held at the Reading Country Club, and I'm disappointed in his characterization.
Okay, yeah, thank
I
you.
have a second comment,
Vice
Chair.
Chair Gardella. Supervisor Hughes, the floor is now yours.
Thank you. I received a phone call actually right before this meeting from one of our residents who wanted to let me know that this organization manages a whole bunch of slum, characterized by what I was told, slum type of residential units in the city of Reading. I was also told that the principal of this organization was convicted of stealing public services, substantial amounts. This is what I was told earlier in this meeting. So these are things that should be considered, and that will conclude my comments, Mr. Chairman.
I have one more comment then, George.
Thank you, Supervisor Hughes. Supervisor Vollmer, the floor is yours.
Yeah, it's amazing. Without doing any due diligence, we're taking the word of a resident without doing any follow-up, any proof. And this is just amazing that, they want to put this to the side based on conjecture and no facts. It's truly amazing. That's what a public hearing is for. You have the public hearing, you bring the public in and let them speak. Because the alternative is a large warehouse, heavy truck traffic. I would rather have vehicle traffic than truck traffic any day of the week. But people aren't getting all the facts. And, Mr. Gardella and Mr. Hughes are pushing not to have this because it fits into their agenda, and that's basically it. It's ridiculous.
I've got no agenda.
Before I,
Everybody's had 2 shots.
Yeah.
Call the vote.
before I call the vote, did you acknowledge me? That's why I couldn't, no, you still,
No, you can call the vote.
okay. All right, I'm going to call the vote. This time the vote is, the motion, the second that stands is to reject the advertising of the public hearing, which means an aye is in favor of no public hearing. So when I call this vote, I just want everybody on the same page, okay? So all those in favor of rejecting the public hearing, please say aye.
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 And those opposed to rejecting the public hearing, please say nay.
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 So 2-3 on the reject. So now I will ask if there's another motion to be made.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to advertise for the public hearing.
Okay. For the public hearing, right? So I'll second the motion to advertise for the public hearing. So there's a motion and a second. Any debate? Hearing none.
I'd like the floor, just a moment.
I did hear some debate requested. So Vice Chair Gardella, the floor is yours.
So I understand that emotions are high on this, but I do want to apologize to the representatives from Metropolitan Development for the comments that were made by Supervisor Hughes. They are baseless, and I don't think that they should have been made. There's nothing I can do about that, but I just wanted to formally apologize because I did make the motion to deny the hearing, opening up the floor to such comments. So.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gardella. Is there any additional conversation on the open motion? I will simply add that I still have concerns. I've had concerns from day one, but I'd like to hear what the public has to say. So that's my comment on this at this point. So hearing no other debate requests, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor of allowing the public hearing on the advertising the public hearing, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So we'll have 3-2 passage of the public hearing. Moving along, thank you, gentlemen that appeared this evening. I trust you can follow up with the advertising, though, if that's what's well circulated for the folks. Thank you.
Chair, I have a comment to make about this recent decision. I just pulled this up on the Reading Eagle. West Lawn man used magnets to steal 63 million gallons of water in Reading.
Point of order, relevance.
So this isn't conjecture. Thank you.
Okay, so moving along to administration, we have discussion and possible action on a manager search. We tabled that, last meeting, June 26th. Is there any discussion or a motion at this time?
I'd like to make a motion that we hire RJM as our professional search organization to conduct the search for a manager.
So I have a
RJM?
RJM.
JPM? Who's RJM?
It's the firm from New Jersey.
Isn't that Jersey Professional Manager?
Okay, JPM.
Okay.
Thank you, Betsy.
So just clarifying, it's JBM, Jersey Professional Management. Is there a second for Vice Chair Gardella's motion? No, I'm going to second it. So now debate. Who would like the floor?
I'll take the floor.
I'd like the floor.
Okay. Because he's on the phone, Supervisor Vollmer, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. I would really like JPM to come in. I went on their website, and they said that they would gladly come. They have it right stated on the website that they could come in and do a presentation. And I'd really like to have a presentation done so the community could see it, and then we could also ask questions, and there could also be public comment on their presentation. I think that would be highly advantageous, because using the firms in the past, they have yielded terrible success for this township. And I really think that this information needs to be presented, and lots of questions need to be asked when they're on the spot, versus just signing a contract half blind. And, I know they say they offer a guarantee, but I want to talk to them face to face and see how they can mitigate a lot of the issues that we've had in the past. That concludes my comment.
Thank you. Supervisor Volmer, Vice Chair Gardella, you had a comment?
Yeah, I reject the notion that this is done in blind fashion. This information was presented. We discussed this during executive session. Mr. Volmer was there, and to my knowledge, has done nothing to facilitate any further searches for firms. So I'm, again, disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gardella. Any additional, the floor is yours. Supervisor Hughes.
Thank you. This is one time I agree with Vollmer. I don't have a lot of faith in decision-making by Mr.
Did you forget?
By Mr. Gardella.
Did you forget the name?
Chairman, would you please rule him out of order, interrupting my comments, please? If we're using Robert's Rules of Orders?
Yeah, he understands he's out of order on that, so continue.
Oh,
your
thanks a lot.
comments, please.
Yeah. So I agree. I'd like to see presentations. Maybe we could get more than one company in here to talk to us. And in the meantime, we could define exactly what we want, what we're looking for in a township manager. We have we have had the worst luck in hiring township managers that you can imagine. And I would like us to define what the expectations are from us. And another thing is, we have Gardella trying to pick what we should be doing. He'll be gone at the end of December. So I think he should defer to those of us that are going to be here. And maybe, but I doubt Bell and Vollmer will be here. But if they are, they should also want this to happen, that
God
we
bless this township
decide
very
who is going to. That we decide, who's going to be working for us. We seem to forget here that the township manager is an employee who reports to the Board of Supervisors.
Who had a criminal complaint filed against her by you.
That's the end of my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank God.
Thank you. Any additional comments on this one?
Yes, I have one more, George.
The floor is yours, Dave. The floor is yours, Dave Vollmer.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I wasn't, if anyone had any inclination, this was in reference to the falling through of the township manager was with Jeff Bartlett and John Granger, not with Betsy. I believe that KMS provided us a great resource with her. Just wanted to make that point of clarification. And then Mr. Hughes did make a good point there about with, a new board coming in, whether George and I are still on the board, but still, I think there has to be consideration for that as well, because, if the new board doesn't like this decision, they can just change it. And then we wasted a lot of money and a lot of time and resources. That concludes mine.
Thank you, Supervisor Vollmer. Looks like no more debate on this one.
I'm just,
The floor is yours, Michelle.
I'm just so disgusted. Yes, with you, Supervisor, you sit there and laugh. You're an idiot. The way you mistreated Betsy, who's done a fabulous job. And I don't know how anyone could ever work with you. It just really, really disgusts me. The best person for manager, and you did the things that you did to her. You should be ashamed.
No shame.
Thank you, Supervisor Kircher. So we have a motion. We have a motion and a
Complaint.
second.
You're laughing?
So,
Barb? A two brute?
all right. I keep control of this meeting here, so I'm going to,
Sorry.
no,
Apologize.
I understand the frustration. If anybody does, I do. But I'm going to call the vote. We have a motion and a second to approve the Jersey Professional Management for the search. So remember, a yay vote is approval of them as the search firm, okay? So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So we have 3-2 passage of the search firm. Next up, we have approve, reject, or table authorizing Chad Schnee, our township solicitor, to explore options regarding modifications to the stormwater drainage at Exeter Self-Storage.
I'll make a motion to approve authorizing Chad Schnee, our township solicitor, to explore the options regarding the modifications to the stormwater drainage for Exeter Self-Storage.
I will second.
Okay. Thank you, too. So we have a motion and a second. Any debate requested here? Hearing none. Calling the vote. All those in favor of authorizing our solicitor to explore some options at Exeter Self-Storage, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
4-1 passage. Next, under administration, discussion and possible action related to Supervisor Hughes and his conduct during meetings and with his demands on staff. Do I have a motion here?
I'd like to make a motion to formally censure David Hughes.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Having a motion and a second. Would anyone like the floor?
I would like the floor, Chairman.
The floor is yours, Vice Chair Gardella.
So, point of clarification from our solicitor. Should we read the proposed censure before the vote or after the vote?
I think since we're going to be voting on it, it probably makes sense to read it out loud prior to voting.
Then I would like the floor to read the censure resolution. So I have copies for the board.
I have a comment before we read the censure, Chairman.
I have the floor.
So at the moment, Vice Chair Gardella has the floor. You will have time to speak on the motion, though.
So this would be resolution number 2023 and a number to be appropriately attached for Exeter Township, Berks County, Pennsylvania. This is a resolution of the Exeter Township Board of Supervisors censuring David Hughes for continued improper and unprofessional conduct and behavior. Before I read the entire text of the resolution, I would remind everyone about what a censure means and what is its purpose. A censure is an assembly's expression of displeasure concerning the conduct of either a member or of an officer. So a censure is uniquely that of the Board of Supervisors. So here's the text of the censure resolution. Whereas Exeter Township is a second-class township and thereby operates under and in accordance with the provisions of the Pennsylvania Second-Class Township Code, and whereas Mr. David Hughes is a supervisor of Exeter Township and as such sits on the 5-member Board of Supervisors for the township, and whereas based on a series of improper and unprofessional actions undertaken by Mr. Hughes since taking office in 2022, the board on June 22nd of 2022 passed a resolution censuring Mr. Hughes for his conduct. And whereas Mr. Hughes has continued to display improper and unprofessional actions following the June 22, 2022 censure resolution, and whereas Mr. Hughes' continued conduct and behavior has besmirched Exeter Township's good name and reputation, and whereas Mr. Hughes' continued conduct and behavior has caused confusion and sowed discord among the township's residents and other people, and whereas Mr. Hughes' continued conduct and behavior has discouraged entities from engaging in business with the township and has caused township employees to leave township employment, and whereas Mr. Hughes has, during public meetings and on social media, on his website and in private, demeaned and threatened township employees, township officials, township vendors, individual township residents, and others, and whereas Mr. Hughes has repeatedly engaged in litigation against the township at taxpayer expense, and whereas Mr. Hughes has demanded that the township provide him separate legal counsel for himself at taxpayer expense at an exorbitant rate of $325 an hour, and whereas Mr. Hughes has repeatedly alleged that the township and/or its public officials and employees have violated the Sunshine Act and other unidentified laws without any basis for such allegations, and whereas the township is required under the right to know law to provide access to public records within its possession, custody, or control, Mr. Hughes has repeatedly failed to respond to inquiries for township records in his possession, which has thwarted the township's ability to provide transparency. And whereas Mr. Hughes has repeatedly posted and continues to host on his website and on YouTube privileged communications with the township solicitor, despite being repeatedly asked to remove such communications. And whereas Mr. Hughes, during a board meeting on December 9th, 2019, referenced the assassination of board members, was removed from that board meeting on that date, and later was, in writing, put on notice that the board will not tolerate any further implied or expressed threats of violence or other disorderly behavior at future board meetings, and that intentional interference with the board's duty and ability to conduct an orderly meeting is a crime in Pennsylvania. And whereas on January 23, 2023, the board passed Ordinance 2023-852 to set forth rules of decorum during board meetings, including a prohibition on displaying signage, interrupting supervisors or staff, causing unreasonable noise, maligning others, otherwise engaging in a disruption of meetings, making personal attacks, questioning the motives of fellow supervisors, and whereas despite the ordinance, Mr. Hughes routinely displays signage, interrupts supervisors and staff, makes unreasonable noise while others are speaking, maligns others, makes personal attacks, questions the motives of fellow supervisors, and otherwise has engaged in the disruption of meetings during public board meetings.
There'll be no further outbursts from the audience. You're here to watch the proceeding, not interfere with it.
And whereas at the request of Mr. Hughes, the board invited Mr. Hughes to use his purported experience to assist the township and its residents regarding the sale of the Promenade Shopping Center. However, Mr. Hughes, following a board vote, declined to do so for unknown reasons. And whereas Mr. Hughes has repeatedly made hostile and immediate demands for information that has forced township employees to divert significant attention from other duties needed to be performed for township residents. And whereas in light of Mr. Hughes' hostility towards and demands on township employees, the board voted to direct supervisor communications to the chair in order to serve as the focal point for communications between township employees and supervisors. And whereas despite the board vote to direct communications to the chair, Mr. Hughes has continued to make numerous unreasonable demands directly to township employees, which has undermined the morale of township employees, caused township employees to divert significant attention away from other township duties, and undermined the authority of this board. And whereas during a public meeting on June 26, 2023, the following actions occurred. Mr. Hughes attempted to speak on a subject not listed on that portion of the agenda without first being recognized by the chair. Despite being informed that the meeting had moved to the next agenda item and subsequently being ruled out of order by the chair, Mr. Hughes continued to speak over the chair. As a result of Mr. Hughes' actions, the chair asked Mr. Hughes to leave the meeting room so that the remainder of the board could discuss what actions, if any, to take in response to Mr. Hughes' violation of the ordinance. As Mr. Hughes refused, the chief of police was asked to intervene and the chair called for a recess. Following the recess, Mr. Hughes returned to the meeting, was permitted to make a statement, and voluntarily left the meeting room while the remainder of the board debated what actions to take regarding Mr. Hughes' actions. The board then voted to censure Mr. Hughes for his actions. Subsequently, Mr. Hughes returned to the boardroom and was permitted to continue, and actually did take part in the remainder of the board meeting. Whereas Mr. Hughes, during a public meeting on June 26, 2023, falsely claimed that he has never sued anyone, despite the fact that he previously sued 2 township residents in the matter of David H. Hughes versus Linda Lewers et al. And whereas Mr. Hughes' conduct and behavior is violative of his fiduciary duty toward the township and casts the township in a negative light. And whereas Mr. Hughes' conduct and behavior has created situations that may leave the township exposed to legal action due to this conduct and behavior. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Exeter Township that, number one, Mr. Hughes is hereby censured for his improper, unconscionable, and unprofessional conduct and behavior. And two, the Board of Supervisors of Exeter Township demands that Mr. Hughes immediately cease such improper, unconscionable, and unprofessional conduct and behavior, and commence acting in full compliance with the applicable municipal, state, and federal statutes, laws, ordinances, codes, rules, and regulations, and in accordance with his fiduciary duty to Exeter Township as a supervisor of this township. And 3, the township manager is directed to post a copy of this resolution on the Exeter Township Facebook page for a period of time no less than 30 days, and send copies to the Reading Eagle, the Mercury, and WFMZ. And then this would be subject to our vote, but should it be voted on, it would be then duly adopted by the Board of Supervisors of Exeter Township, Berks County, Pennsylvania, in the lawful session duly assembled this 10th day of July, 2023.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gardella. Would anyone wish the floor to discuss this item?
I do.
Floor is yours, Supervisor Hughes.
Spent a lot of money for a lot of nonsense. I think that, this last meeting, you illegally removed me. You illegally conducted business while you kicked me out of the meeting illegally. And I believe this action, prompted by Mr. Gardella, who is disrupting this whole community, particularly this township's management, is another retaliatory act against me. I think there's a couple things I want to present in my defense. One of them is a audio where it's clear that someone was conspiring against me, and I'll let you hear it right now.
You think he is? I think that he should be censured. It's okay when he does it. Everything's okay when he does it. It's just not okay when somebody else.
There are 4 supervisors who I love.
That's enough of that. And then there's one other item I want to read into the record. Mr. Gardella, he's an angel. He's an absolute angel. Ted Gardella. That's why he does. Let's see. Well, I can't find it, but Mr. Gardella was conspiring with our solicitor's wife to ruin one of our residents' businesses, and it's continuing, ongoing. It's unseemly. It's embarrassing. I try to conduct business here for the best interest of this township, and we have a manager who questions my
Filed a criminal
agreement to that.
complaint
But I can tell you that before I vote on anything, I think about what's best for this township. That's what I do. But we have a supervisor and a solicitor's wife who are attacking multiple people in this community. But you don't hear anything about that. Why? Because I'm the guy revealing all the really ridiculous things that are going on. And it's difficult for me to sit here and work with these people knowing that they're all lies. If you listen to this long censure that they're doing, most of it I've already been censured. And even out of this guy's mouth said it can't be censured twice for the same thing. So this censure, if you adopt it today, you're violating the law, okay? And there's a lot of things in here that are inaccurate. You're making accusations that you haven't proven. You're taking things from the past and misconstruing them to make me look like I'm the problem here. But the real problem is Ted Gardella. He lost his job in Michigan because he was attached to a hate group that was
Point of
being
order, that's
investigated by the
inaccurate,
FBI.
and it's untrue, and Mr. Hughes continues to lie.
Mr. Chairman,
Point of
he
order.
was fired
I
the
would
first
say-
year after a 3-year contract.
If you
He
could
was
keep your remarks-
kicked out of the school district.
Supervisor
not
Hughes, if you
true.
could keep your remarks to the motion at hand.
Well, this is a guy that credibility. He doesn't have any credibility here.
You filed a criminal complaint against
I'd
him.
like to speak.
You're
All right.
All right,
You filed it.
I'm not going to argue with the 6 of you. You're going to
'cause you
have
know
your
you're
way
wrong.
one way or another. So
You
thank
abused
you,
the
Mr. Chairman.
process at the district attorney's office.
Thank-
Shame on you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hughes. Supervisor Kircher.
Yes, I'd just like to ask you, David, if you didn't call past supervisors, bosses, to try and get them fired because of what they were doing in the meetings.
Good point.
Why did you do that? I would never call somebody's employee if I
I
didn't
have
like
no idea what you're
something.
talking about. So
What did he say?
Oh, my
He has no
God.
idea. You got a cease and desist letter, but he doesn't understand.
Yeah, yeah. That's a pretty sad person that does that.
Please try right to know with the district attorney, December 2022.
Does that conclude your remarks, Supervisor Kircher?
Right now.
Okay.
I'm getting warmed up.
Supervisor Vollmer, did you have anything to add at this point?
Yes. I just want to let you know that I'm going to be voting no against this censure. And the reason is I was not involved in it at all. Nothing was asked of me. Number two, there's stuff from 2019. We cannot censure Mr. Hughes for things that were done in 2019. And the other thing is, a lot of these same things in this censure, Mr. Gardella and the rest of us have done in some of these meetings. And I think it's wrong to do it again. We censored him once.
Amen.
We censored him once for this. I mean, apparently he doesn't have much respect for the system. That's just the way it's going to be. This is idiotic, and I'm just extremely disappointed in the way that this is going. It's ridiculous. That concludes my remarks.
I'd like the floor.
Any further comments?
Yeah, I'd like the floor.
The floor is yours, Vice Chair Gardella.
So I did want to draw everyone's attention. We did provide an article from the Reading Eagle, a very reputable media outlet. At least they're professional. And so there was a councilman who was censured in Mount Penn Borough just recently, has been censured by their council and banned from the borough office during working hours following an incident with office staff. I would also like to ask that.
What's that got to do
as
with
we-
me?
It's just that you're not the only one, Dave. Other places are blessed with, you know.
Irrelevant.
It's relevant to the censure, folks, and it's my time on the floor. So, I would also like to ask that in addition to the posting publicly, I'd like to ask that we send the censure resolution to Chrissy Houlihan, Judy Schwenk, Governor Shapiro, Barry Joswiak, Mark Gillen.
How about Joe Biden? How about Joe Biden?
Joe Biden.
Please don't interrupt the proceedings here. That concludes your public comment?
Gotta go get his ice cream, so.
Any other comments at this time?
When will the flogging take place?
Okay, so at this time, we're going to conclude comment on this motion, and I'm going to call the vote on it. All those in favor of passage of the censure resolution against Supervisor David Hughes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, so the vote will be recorded officially. I believe, Counselor, is 3-1.
3-1.
Yes.
I said nay.
You
I
can't,
have a right to vote in
Not
any
on a
business
censure.
before this board.
not on a censure
Not a censure, you
resolution.
don't.
Super.
Nothing in the second-class township code that says that.
Robert's rules, though.
So,
We don't run by Robert's rules. It's hardly enforced here now.
We've adopted Robert's rules in our ordinance.
Robert's Rules of Order. So
right.
you really love this, don't you, Counselor?
all right, let's not be,
You're loving it. Look at you.
let's not be argumentative with the solicitor.
God, what a bunch of crows.
So we're going to officially record it as 3-1. Moving on to item 4, discussion and possible action on promenade bids.
Do you want to take it, or you want me to?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so we
Thank you, Betsy.
sought bids to sell the promenade. We put in a minimum bid of $3 million. We had initially 7 potentially interested bidders. We got one bid for $2 million, which is less than the $3 million we asked for. My recommendation is that you do not award this bid, but it's up to you.
I'll make a motion to reject the one bid that received on the promenade.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to reject the, what would be a non-conforming bid. Is there any debate here?
Like the floor.
The floor is yours, Vice Chair Gardella.
So during the time of the bid being advertised, we did get a lot of input from different real estate vendors who were interested in the property, and in particular, several of them discussed the timing of the bid being approved to the timing with them to have to fully execute the bid, and that it was not enough time for them to do their due diligence on the property, specifically some questions about water and sewer capacity. So what I would recommend is that as we move forward to rebidding this, that we get more information that will answer some of those questions that have been posed during the process.
Thank you. Supervisor Hughes?
Yes, the sale of this promenade was doomed from the beginning. It started when Betsy McBride put in the budget that we would see $2 million from the sale of this, and we didn't have an appraisal at that time. I don't know who agreed to that, but it was $2 million in our budget, so I'm not surprised someone came in and offered $2 million. I've asked to see the appraisal. I've been refused. I put in a right-to-know request to see it, and I think they are making me wait 35 days to see that. The other thing is that we had Supervisor Gardella sitting here on multiple meetings claiming we had numerous bids coming in, numerous activity coming in to buy this property, and that may have perhaps scared away some people as far as in putting a bid for this property. It's just a total mess. And I will vote to reject the offer, of course. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other supervisors wish the floor on this one?
No.
Dave, did you say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, can I have a second round? I forgot something to say here. Okay. The thing is that with Mr. Gardella claiming that there were multiple bids, I'd like to, why were we talking about this action in public? It should have been behind closed doors, but this whole thing has been publicly stated. One of the things in the censure is that you guys wanted me to go get an appraisal of this property. Well, first the assignment was given to the solicitor.
You wanted the appraisal.
But I said, look, that's not my job. It's the manager's job to go out and get appraisals, and present them to the board. And that's why I refused to do it.
Appraisals.
So I think that we rezoned it. We rezoned it to commercial residential, and I think we need to get another appraisal on this property. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes public comment. Calling the vote, and as a reminder, the motion on the floor is to reject. So all those in favor of approving the reject of the offer, please say aye.
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 What did he say?
Dave, did you say anything?
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed, 5-0 vote on rejecting the bid. Moving on to finance, we have opportunity to motion transfer of funds for the RCC.
I'd like to make a motion that we combine item number 1 and number 2 under finance.
Okay. I'll second that.
I'll second it.
No.
We did.
Sure, second.
Okay. I didn't hear this.
Vote to approve both.
Who
Yeah, vote.
seconded?
So now do I have a motion to approve or reject the transfers? Since I'll give you the floor since you made the motion
So
to.
I'll make a motion to approve both of
Both.
the items.
Okay. Both item 1 and 2 under finance, or both under, actually, one's excuse me here, I'm sorry. You're doing 1 and 2 under finance. So
Correct.
that's the funds RCC and the approval of the audit.
Correct.
And we have Michelle Kircher, you said second, right?
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second to approve both finance items. Anybody wish the floor on that?
To combine or to approve?
To approve both?
To combine and to approve.
Yes. And no one wishing the
I do.
the
Chairman?
floor is yours, Supervisor.
Okay, first of all, on the second item, the MD&A, that MDA, unless it's been changed, is really missing so much information. It's so inadequate. It's like maybe an 11th grader did it, okay? But with that said, you're going to adopt it anyway. There's a lot of information that should be analyzed and discussed in this MD&A. Now, what an MDA is management discussion and analysis. It's where we, the township, should be talking about, in pretty much layman's terms, explaining to the public what happened with the funds that we expended in 2022. So they forget to tell you in the MD&A that the Reading Country Club lost over $300,000. And they don't explain why. They don't even give you a heads up on this year where they're projected to lose $500,000, okay? So those are the kind of things that are missing. That's my concluding my comments on the MD&A. On the transfer, every time we transfer money, we should provide a document that shows us what's been happening with the Reading Hospitality Management. Well, I keep track of this, and I'll make this available to anyone who requests it. So year-to-date, for 2023, this township, after we transfer this $10,798.15, in the last 9 months, we will have received $61,619. And we're losing money on this deal. But RHM, guess what they received? $300,218.62. That's a 83-17% split. Far lower than Mr. Gardella and Mr. Bell promised us we would have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else wish the floor? Nope. So calling the vote on approving both finance items 1 and 2. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
So we have 4-1 passage of the finance items. Moving along to solicitor report.
I have nothing to add for tonight.
Thank you, Chad.
I have a
Public,
question for the solicitor, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Solicitor, would you wish to entertain? Supervisor Hughes, the solicitor, is wishing to entertain your question. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor, for entertaining my question. I have an RTK that expired over 35 days for documents from RHM for the fourth quarter. Am I ever going to receive those documents? You also held a meeting with RHM to discuss these documents on June 6th. Could you give me a heads up on when I will actually receive these documents?
Yeah, my understanding is that the township's open records officer reached out to you to ask for an extension until today to provide those documents.
Until the 17th.
Okay. Well, my understanding is that she also provided those documents to you prior to the meeting today.
No, I haven't gotten any documents at all.
I was copied on an email, I think that was sent to you around 4 o'clock today.
Oh, 4 o'clock today? Okay. Well, I'll have to look at that, but I wasn't aware that I was getting documents. Are they all there?
Yeah, I believe all the documents you requested are there.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Thank you. Oh, one question. Why were we 39 days late?
Well, we were not 39 days late.
It was due on the 6th, I believe. July 6th it was due. Would you like me to bring it up? Said July 6th was the date.
Right, so
Or
today's the
before.
10th, so that would be 4 days?
Well, no, I had to wait 35 days plus 4 days. Can you add, Counselor?
Right, so under
35
Section
plus
902
4
of the
is
Pennsylvania
9,
Right to
right?
Know Law, so under Section 901 of the Pennsylvania Right to Know Law, an agency has 5 business days from the receipt of the request by the agency's open records officer to respond. One of those responses can be to send an extension notice. That's under Section 902 of the Pennsylvania Right to Know Law.
30 days, right.
It's an additional 30 calendar days on top of the 5 business days.
That's right.
So when the open records officer reached out to you as a township supervisor to ask for a couple of additional days to respond, I believe you declined that, but we
No, I
provided.
did not decline it. Actually, it was, would you like to read my email? I said, I refuse to accept it, but I know that this is what I have to accept, whether I like it or not.
And you got the records today, so.
You want to argue with me, Counselor?
Well,
You can do it.
you asked to engage with me.
Yeah, but I
the
didn't
records
ask
were
to
provided
engage in
to
an
you.
argument with you. The facts, sir.
Well, I'm not arguing with the facts, but you have the records.
Okay.
Enjoy.
The facts are, thank you, Chairman.
Public Works, is I know you're a man of many hats. Is there an update on Public Works this evening, Larry?
I just want to give you an update of the storm from yesterday. Public Works started out at 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and actually finally got the wrap up for the evening at midnight. And then we were in cleaning up today also. Probably will be cleaning up the rest of the week. But I'd like to say that I did see a lot of great teamwork between the police department, the Public Works, and the fire department of helping out every which way we could throughout the whole township. So I'm very proud of the Public Works, also our police department and our fire department. So I just want to make sure that know that. And I would like our residents to be patient with us. We do know all the damages throughout the township, and we're taking them one by one, trying to get everything wrapped up. So
Thank you. Larry, are you also representing Parks and Rec this evening?
Yes. So we did fill out the grant paperwork, and we had a meeting with the Berks County Greenway grant. Becky, my assistant, and myself met with them, and they felt that we actually did our homework pretty well. They felt pretty confident that they did make us aware there is already a grant filed for Exeter Township, not by Exeter Township, but for the research property for the same at the same area. So they are going to see what they can do for us and get back to us. So
Good job.
thank you.
That was a pretty quick turnaround. We just spoke about that.
What's that?
We just recently spoke about that, so that was a quick turnaround.
Yes, yes. I think we had it was after the last meeting, and we had a meeting that Thursday of the same week. So.
Thank you. Chief, did you have a police report for us this evening?
I have a lot to report for the next meeting, but I just wanted to go over something with the board. I was looking at our police department, and we currently have 4 officers that are eligible to retire, and next year we'll have another 4 that are eligible. So it's a total of 8 that can leave at any time. Our hiring list is expired. We do not have a current updated hiring list. We did budget to advertise and create a list this year. I'm not looking at asking for any officers, but I would like to have a list, and I would like to proceed with that. I just wanted to make sure the board was okay with doing that. It's a minimum of 5-month process by advertising, setting a test date, interviewing, doing backgrounds. We'd be looking at least 5 months at the minimum. And if I don't have a list, and if we have people that retire, we'd have to be prepared for that. So we did budget $6,000 for it. I was asking for a blessing to proceed forward with that.
I understand.
I don't know if you need it on the agenda for next time, but.
Because it would be, I guess, an expenditure, it technically needs to be on the, excuse me, folks, on the agenda for next time, but I'm glad you're discussing it. Even though it's budgeted, it's still an expenditure, so we should probably put it on the agenda.
Okay, I'll have Betsy put it on the next agenda then.
That would be good, but it's good that we're looking ahead, especially with 8 potential departures.
Okay. I also the only other thing I have, and I always talk about our core values, and one of them is integrity, and I want to just clarify something with the board, just so we're all understanding, is that last township meeting, I was under the assumption that Mr. Hughes was not allowed back in after he was removed, so I made it very clear to him in the hallway he was not allowed back in, and I think the board wanted to just recess and vote on it and allow him back in, but when I was in the hallway, I was under the assumption that he was no longer back in, so I made it clear, so I had to apologize. I misinterpreted it, but I think there was a little debate tonight between Supervisor Gardella and Supervisor Hughes that he was allowed back in or he wasn't, but I thought he was supposed to be removed, and I made it clear that he wasn't allowed back in, so I apologize if I was wrong for that.
Chief, I don't think anybody's looking for your apologies. So
Okay.
Trying to do the best you can do.
I just want to make that clear, though, because I don't want there's any debating going back and forth, because I did make it very clear to him that he was to be removed from the meeting.
Okay, fair enough.
Comment, Mr. Chairman?
Can you please keep it brief, because we don't want to put the chief in a bad light here.
I'm never going to put the chief in a bad light. What the chief perceived was exactly what I perceived. In fact, I sat here, and everyone, you could see it on the video. I sat here, I packed up my PC, I packed up all my documents, I put them in my briefcase, and I left with the understanding that you guys were kicking me out of the meeting permanently. Now, you, Mr. Bell, you unilaterally made me leave. You cannot do that. You do not have that power.
So let me tell you about the power I do have. and the power I do have is to remove you or any board member while we deliberate on the punishment in this case we're going to have, and that's what I did
But
last
that's
meeting.
not what you did. You told the chief to remove me. You saw me pack things up. You allowed me to have a comment before you forced me to leave. When I came back in the second time,
I invited you to the table.
yeah, after you voted on the KMS contract, I was sitting right there. I wasn't kicked out of the meeting. The vote, you can look at the minutes that you've adopted. They're 4-0. Well, I was
So-
sitting right there.
Did it ever cross your mind just to act in a civil way? Does that ever cross your mind?
As I said, you kicked me out of the meeting permanently, as I
During
thought.
the deliberation of
You
the
didn't say
punishment?
that.
I did. If you're so fond of saying things.
Later on. And then Mr. Schnee, yourself, and
I don't
others
even-
characterized that as I left on my own free
I
will.
don't even-
I
I
did
don't-
not leave on my own free will.
I don't find this productive.
I apologize for bringing it up, but I just wanted to make that clear. I just felt I had a duty to do that.
Yep.
So,
No, I understand, Chief. Thanks for the update. We'll look forward to your more robust update. I know you had promotions today. You did an excellent job, and all of the board members are very proud of their promoted officers.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So we'll move along to Reading Country Club. Does anybody wish the floor on that topic?
Yes.
Why don't we start with you, Larry?
Also, with the storm, we do have a lot of cleanup to do over there. There is some cart paths that we are going to be looking at tomorrow, but we focused on roadways today, and also some bridge issues for the carts. So we are going to be out to assess that fully tomorrow to make sure it's safe before we open the course. It's wet. We are looking to keep it closed for a couple more days yet. We're hoping to have it ready to go. There is a golf outing there this Friday, so just want to give you a heads up there. And we also had a slight roof leak inside the upstairs ballroom. It was around an AC unit. It was very minor, but not much to that. So just wanted to give you that heads up too.
That's good. Appreciate that update. Does anybody have any questions for Larry on his update so far? Anybody wish the floor on RCC? How about we move along to monthly reports? These don't require approval. They're our monthly reports. Does anybody wish the floor to talk about either of them?
I have a question about the monthly reports.
The floor is yours.
As I stated in previous meetings, the fire department P&L is completely worthless without a balance sheet. It doesn't make sense. That said, when I requested it. It still doesn't. It's still not happening. The other thing is, on these monthly reports, we did have a golf report. I understand it was discontinued because they found some discrepancies. For years, we've had that. At least there should be some reporting on the golf course, the number of rounds that are played during a month. At least the revenue that was earned during the month. There must be some information that can be provided to the public on the golf course on a monthly basis. Thank you.
May I comment?
You're welcome. Betsy, did you have something to say on monthly reports?
Yes, I did contact the fire company right after the meeting, and I said Supervisor Hughes would like both a balance sheet and a P&L. I then found out that their bookkeeper is on vacation, so hopefully at the next meeting, we will have that for the month of June.
It's a good update. Thank you for sharing it. And this evening, Betsy, are you
Yes.
leading the manager's report?
I am doing it.
Yep. Floor is yours, please.
And a little off schedule, off the agenda. I recently found out that in December, Supervisor Hughes filed a criminal complaint against me with the Berks County DA. They denied it. They didn't deserve that.
Nope.
You're welcome to your opinion.
I'm finding out if there are others filed at other agencies within the state. And I really hope I find that's not the case. But as to why I might need legal protection, residents, this is why.
Yep.
I should have never had a criminal complaint filed against me. Never. If you had a conscience, you would hang your head in shame, but you have no sense of honor.
Oh my God, he's an F.
what we discussed.
Not going to say a word.
You just did.
Total
There's
nonsense.
nothing for you to say.
Oh, I know it.
You did it.
I wonder if your parents were like you or if you learned to be this way on your own. Right to know efforts. A right to know is a right that people have to file for information. So I'm going to talk about numbers here, but I'm not criticizing people for filing. Much like when I go to vote, I'm using tax dollars because there's poll workers there and poll machines. So I'm not wasting tax dollars when I go to vote. People aren't necessarily wasting tax dollars when it comes to right to know. But between January 1st and July 7th, the township received 164 right to knows. Two people accounted for 47% of them, requesting 41 and 36 right to knows respectively. The next highest person requested 4. This is not necessarily uncommon in townships or counties or other government agencies. There's often 1 or 2 who request a lot. Fireworks. I receive a lot of complaints regarding fireworks over the 4th of July. Although we do have statutes and ordinances, there's not a lot that can be done. The police receive a call, they go out, by that time the fireworks are done. You know, as we go into the next holidays, Labor Day is not that big for fireworks, but there will be some. You know, the only thing I can say is that the code enforcement and the police do work on it. I apologize to everyone's dogs who were made nervous by this. I understand that completely. Regarding the budget preparation for 2024, we have a bit of a calendar that we will follow, and it will begin in August with a mid-year review and a historical review. I think of more important to people who are listening, in October there will be a public workshop, and they will introduce a community survey at that time. Based on the feedback from that, as well as from talking to the Board of Supervisors, an updated budget from the original draft will be created in November, and there will be another public workshop in November, and then the public hearing will be in December. Between that time, they will be meeting with the department heads and the board. They'll develop revenue projections. They will have draft proposals coming in. They'll have it based on feedback from the supervisors and the community. The public workshops are important. We had a small group of people come last year. Hopefully more people will come this year. I'm letting you know ahead of time because I would like you to think, what is it that you would like to see done? Do you want to see the township incur debt for buildings or not? Do you want to see an increase in police headcount due to upcoming retirements? These are things that need to be considered, and you will hear about them as we go forward. We got a notice from the county regarding whether we want to use credit cards to accept payment for taxes. Christy Pearsall, who's the township tax collector, would love to see this. So what it is, there are fees when credit cards are used, and in this case, these fees are passed on to the cardholder. The township does not absorb these. Others do this, and the rate that the cardholder gets hit for is 2.15%. I can't say that will be the rate that Exeter has. Most likely it will be. We will have to have a contract entered into. I would suggest that the township do this. A lot of people like to get points so that they can get frequent flyer miles or whatever, and I just think it's the way to go. There's no decision to be made tonight unless you know now that this is something we want to pursue. How do you want to?
Pursue it.
Supervisor Vollmer would like to pursue it.
Do you want
Anybody
to,
else?
do we need a, we don't know the percent yet, though?
We won't have it until we start talking about contracts. So do you want me to proceed?
I mean, folks, it's going to just be an option. Folks don't need to use it, right?
Oh, yeah, they don't need to use it, yeah.
I wouldn't see the downside. Do you want to just frame it as a motion, Supervisor Vollmer?
Yes, I'd frame it as a motion. I say we go along with the county who is already accepting or is doing this, accepting credit cards for payment. Let's just to redo that motion. I want to do a motion that Exeter Township accepts credit cards for real estate taxes with all fees being passed on to the cardholder.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Vollmer. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Having a motion and a second, does anybody wish to debate this topic?
I would like to add something.
Sounds like you have something for the good of the group first.
Yes, I kind of know the tax collector. It would work for the township and also the county. It could be an issue for your school tax, so just so the residents are aware that the school would have to be on board also for the school tax to work, but at least your county and your tax, your school or your township tax come together, so just make everybody aware of that.
That's a good point. We can't speak for the school tax, but, thank you for that. Does any supervisor wish to debate on this topic?
I do.
My guest, Supervisor Hughes.
Well, it's good to see that we're finally moving into the future, or actually the past in some other places. Credit cards in my home in California, credit cards are accepted payment. They're like this, they are charged a fee to the user, but also they have a transfer from a checking account to the county where there is no extra charge. In addition to that, I hope one day we move into the future where I live in both Alameda and Santa Clara County, and each county only has one tax collector, the treasurer. They have this strange machine called a computer that can collect all the data, all the money from each town and send it back to them in a check or transfer into their funds. So hopefully one day we'll get to that point where we only have one tax collector instead of thousands.
California.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other conversation? So going to call the vote at this point on allowing credit cards as an option for collecting the real estate tax in Exeter Township and the county tax. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I will not vote on this because this was on the agenda as a discussion, not for a motion to pass or reject. So I abstain. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to record it as 401. And then, Betsy, if you continue with
Okay.
your report.
In the budget, we have a position for a grants communications newsletter person, and I'm wondering if we should go forward with that now.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the employment positions for grants communication, right to knows, and newsletter, and we authorize Betsy to do the hiring.
I'll second that.
I would say, my only thought would be the friendly amendment would be if it bleeds into next month, maybe we should be authorizing the position and not the person. If it,
I agree.
So I'll make a friendly amendment, I'll accept a friendly amendment that we have the township manager or acting township manager do the hiring.
Very good. And do I still have a second, Ms. Kircher? I think did you second that?
Yes.
Yes, so you're good on the second. So so I have a motion and a second to interview for the budgeted grant writer. Does anybody wish to debate on this topic?
I do.
Yes, I would, George.
In light of phone vote, Supervisor Vollmer, you can go first, please. The floor is yours.
All right. I think that we should ask Interim Township Manager Larry Pearsall what he thinks about this position, whether or not it's how he feels it needs to be done, and whether he wants to add something to this position, because he's going to be our township manager in 2 weeks. And I think it's not right for the board to push someone on him if he deems it not necessary. So I'd like to hear what he has to say on this.
Thank you, Supervisor Vollmer. Larry, in light of that, did you have any comment you'd like to share?
I also looked on the website of the company that you were looking at for managers, and they also do placements of grant writers and stuff like that. I don't know if you saw that on there. And also, I didn't know if you're doing the manager thing, if you were also going to look at doing an assistant manager position. And I was also thinking about if you had an assistant manager that could actually be the township secretary, could do the grant writing, do the right to knows, the communication, the minutes, and also manage the office, help manage the office staff and engineering and stuff like that. So I didn't know if that was a position that you would be considering too, so.
Not this time.
Okay, thank you for that, Larry. Supervisor Vollmer, did that conclude your remark at this time?
Well, I mean, based upon the information that Larry gave, it sounds like, he wants a little bit more, like a assistant township manager that can do all of these things. So I think that we should allow him to proceed forward in finding that person that would be the right fit based on what he sees the needs. Because Larry is not just the interim township manager. Larry has been with the township for over 15 years. He knows everything about the township. He knows all the nuances about the township. He knows the nuances with the staff. He would be a great person to find the right person that would be the right fit for our township. None of us board members have the expertise of that like Larry does. And now that he is the leader of our organization, we should allow him to move forward with this and not any of us. And I think that will provide the best outcome possible for the township. So that concludes my remarks.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, Supervisor Hughes,
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. I have some concerns. I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I would like to see a concise job description first. I would like to know if it's in this year's budget. We are already $2 million over in deficit. So if it's not in the budget for this year, we should put this in for the budget for next year and then do a hire. And I also like to know the salary and the salary ranges for this position. Some of this work, I don't know if it's done by the executive secretary or not, but I'm guessing that some of this stuff is, or we have a right-to-know officer who does the right-to-knows. So we may be doubling up on some things, I don't know. This is the first time I've seen this tonight on this agenda. So I'm going to vote no on this for now. And I don't know if my questions can be answered. Job description, does it exist yet? Do we have a salary range? Is it in the budget?
Thank you, Supervisor Hughes. I do know we have a grant writer, and budget is what we basically have. And I know that's been a deficit for over a year now. So the way I see it here is and I believe this position would fall under the purview of management. It's not really a person that's going to report to the board. So I would say all good concerns. Definitely an assistant manager, which might be the way to go, would be out of scope for this particular motion item. Clearly, that would require additional discussion. But I would say the grant writer was budgeted for. We need one. I do think, in deference to what Mr. Vollmer said, Betsy and Larry could have the discussion on that. It's a 2-week overlap, and I'm sure you guys could work together and come to some conclusion. But tonight, the mandate would be basically authorizing a grant writer or not. It wouldn't be wider than that tonight. So,
all right, I'd like a second go around then, George, whenever everybody has the first chance.
So that would be my look at this. Yeah, does anybody wish the floor a second time? Supervisor Vollmer, I heard you say you'd like to speak some more.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm going to vote no against this in light of all of that information. And then Mr. Hughes brought up a bunch of good points on salary and stuff. But, and I like what you just said there too, George, where, leave the staff discuss it more because that's what it's going to be about. And I think Betsy and Larry could come up with a really good game plan before she leaves.
Okay.
That concludes my remarks.
So we are live with a pro motion, right, yeah. Counselor? Mm-hmm. Sounds like there's a mixed sentiment, but I'm going to still call the vote because we have a motion and a second in favor. So this vote would be, despite some, or maybe even majority dissent, the motion is a affirmative motion. So I'm going to call the vote on the township manager or interim manager to hire the grant and communications writer. So calling that vote, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Or, sorry, what did you say?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
He was in it.
Nay.
Nay, thank you. So we have 3-2 in favor of the grant writer position. Lastly, you have one other item.
Yeah, this was, so as you know, we've spent the last 6 months updating Munis, and now we're getting some wrinkles ironed out. So when we came into work on July 3rd, we noticed that there was a glitch with the update to Munis. We now have that ironed out. There will probably be 1 or 2 more as the next month or 2 unfold. So overall, we're very happy with the update, and I'm mentioning this just to let you know that, as you know, the update's complete, but we're also working on different things such as report structures, and this is where these wrinkles are found. So that's it for the manager's report for tonight.
Thank you. Betsy,
Chairman,
supervisor
point
reports.
Point of information.
Of township manager? Is that what you're?
Pardon?
Of the township manager?
No, of this item number 6. The Munis update.
I don't know that I'm the one, but you can ask the question, and we'll get someone to get it for you. So.
Okay, well, what I'd like to know is, normally when you're making changes to your primary system, you run a shadow system where you make the changes in that first before you implement it in your active system. Are we running a shadow to the Munis system and making the changes in there before we implement them in the live system?
I'll look into that and get back to you.
Well, that means we aren't doing it. Thank you.
I'll look into that and get back to you.
We're going to move along to supervisor reports. Me too. Supervisor Kircher, would you do the honors of kicking us
Sure.
off?
Yesterday, amidst all that rain, we had a meeting where we met with Amanda Johnson, who was concerned about the PA water increases. And we put it out for residents, and we had about 60 people there in that rain, so it was a good attendance. And the reason that we're doing this is we're going to go against their rate hike. Apparently, Exeter Township has a higher rate for their water than other places do. And Amanda Johnson started with a Facebook page, and she has quite a bit of members. She's very knowledgeable. She's a great source. And we have been collecting the water bills to give to the PUC. But it's really exciting to see a group of individuals working together for a goal and try and get it. It was such a breath of fresh air. And I really believe with the caliber that we have so far, and anyone else is invited, we will have more meetings, that I think are really going to do something to help our rates. So that's it.
Thank you for organizing that. Got it in right before the rain. Thank you, Michelle. Supervisor Hughes, your report, please.
I have a few items. I'd like to talk about the right-to-know requests that are continually pushed out to 30 days for me, and a concern about the activity, how many right-to-knows I submit. The state law is you can submit as many right-to-knows as you want, as long as they're not, disingenuous. But I'm in a situation where I'm asking for information from the manager, who then tells me I had to go through Gardella. Now I have to go through Bell, and either it's very late or I get no's, and I should not have to put right-to-knows in. If they want me to reduce my right-to-knows, give me access to the information that we have in this township. I'm not the public, I'm a supervisor, and they're using all kinds of excuses for not giving it to me. And I'll give you some examples. I asked if we have a bond for the manager, and when was it approved in a meeting? Well, I had to do that in a right to know, and I've got to wait 30 days to find out if that exists. And by our ordinances, we have to have a bond for the manager, and it has to be accepted and approved by the board. Another one is I wanted to know the billable hours for our solicitor for April and May. And I wasn't given that. I had to put a right-to-know request in. That was pushed out 30 days. So, and there's reasons for us to look at that. Just because he's on a retainer of $45,000 every 3 months, he still has to account for how he used that money. And I want to make sure, I want to find out if it's all used up or if there's excess and then we need to adjust the retainer. The other thing is, I talked about this earlier, I mentioned it, and I'm probably not going to get an answer. We had a double payment again, and I'd like to understand exactly how that happened. Did we investigate it? Did we document it? And did we implement a fix to ensure that we don't have another double payment? This is just an internal process that should go on, and we should never see this again, but it's going to happen. So I've been censured again tonight for things that they censured me in the past. The same thing, double censure for me. I have to tell you, I'm dealing with the issues that are here. I'm asking questions that none of them here ask because they don't want the public to hear about them.
Not true.
Well, I have to work outside of the Board of Supervisors process because they don't want me to participate in what they do. They censure me, but then later on they're going to invite me in to do things. So I'm sure they're going to ask me to get involved in the budgeting after they've censured me and told me, we don't want to work with you. We can't work with you. So it's a little game they're playing, a control game, and I hope the public can see that. And it's incredible retaliation on their part against me for the things I'm trying to do. And you can even hear them as I'm giving my report, they're interrupting me and making rude comments constantly during the meeting. So, Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my report. I'm sure that the follow-up by some of the other supervisors will piggyback on my report, so thank you.
You're welcome, Supervisor Vollmer.
Yeah, I don't have anything tonight, George. Thank you, though.
You're welcome. Vice Chair Gardella.
Well, at the risk of being predictable, I did plan tonight, and I intend to share some of the fruits of my right to knows, because I wrote a couple right to knows to get the right to knows of people who were writing right to knows. And the reason I did that is because I want to be able to share with the township many of the right to know requests that David Hughes puts in. They're not about items that are germane to the township operation. They're really about him. So one of them that he provided on 6/22 that I was provided as part of my right to know, one of them requests that we provide documents that indicate that I am a detriment to the township, that he, Supervisor Hughes, is a detriment to the township. So he filed a right to know to ask for documentation that he is a detriment to the township. That's only one of the many, many requests that he makes about himself. Here's another one, and we can also talk about why he made this one. Mr. Hughes made a right-to-know request for the following correspondence, all on 6/8/23, between Solicitor
Point of order,
Schnee.
Mr. Chairman.
This is my
Point of
report,
order,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Stand down.
Point of order.
On what grounds, Dave?
On Chapter 65, where there's forbidden to harass other supervisors. I mean, this is just harassment.
I'm just.
Who cares what my right to know is?
talking about the right
Who
to know.
cares about my right to
I
know?
do.
Let's let him complete his report.
Who cares?
I do.
Please complete the report so we can.
Thank you. So on 6, as I said, it was on 6/9/23, he asked the township to provide the following correspondence from 6/8/23 between Solicitor Schnee and Supervisor David Hughes. In other words, Supervisor David Hughes has this correspondence. He wants from Hughes at 10:14 a.m., 11:57 a.m., 1:39 p.m., and 1:56 p.m., his emails to Schnee, and then from Schnee, 10:39 a.m., 12:02 p.m., 1:42 p.m., and 1:59 p.m. He has those documents. He has
I have a
those
reason for
emails.
asking those.
He wants to be able to publish them on his stupid website. Apologize. There are so many more. I mean, there are.
Let's go over all of them.
There are some right to know requests from another individual, and again, I requested these from Mr. Jelliff. He wanted copies of my personal emails, which he's not entitled to, so that was denied. But then he must have had a bad day on 5/23/23 because he made multiple requests about items from the 5/22/2023 supervisor meeting. He obviously watched and rewatched and rewatched and rewatched the video over and over again, but he wants documentation about the golf report being incorrect. He wanted documentation of Mr. Vollmer's assertion that the police pension fund contribution of $10 million had gained more than $600,000, which was presented during the meeting. But the funniest one was the one that was, he asked for documentation supporting my comments in the 5/22/23, and those comments were supported by the January 23rd Board of Supervisor meeting, which Mr. Jelliff attended. So he was there to see the presentation about the costs incurred by RHM, which supported my comments. There are multiple, in fact, I don't think this community understands that in the 2 days following the July 6th holiday, we received, I believe it was 35 right-to-know requests. Is that correct, Ms. McBride?
Yes.
35 right-to-know requests from two individuals. 2 individuals. 35 right-to-know requests in one day. Obviously, you weren't enjoying the July 4th holiday. So I would just like the community to understand how much time and energy is being wasted by a very, very small number of people who are asking for, really redundant items, and they want communication. Why? Because they want to publish it. Mr. Hughes wants to publish it on his website. Mr. Jelliff wants to publish it on his website, all for the purpose of harassing and denigrating the township, its employees, and the supervisors. Quite frankly, I'm surprised that Pennsylvania has not updated its right-to-know law to avoid harassing right-to-know requests and overdone right-to-know requests. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have just 2 different items here. One, many of you know I was reaching out to a certain trash hauler that seemed to had performance issues of late. I'm sorry to report that despite many different outreaches, they've remained mute or not returned my calls, kept me on hold for extended periods of time. So at this time, my final report on this topic, as I believe it to be my final report, would be you may have to use the capitalist system and pick one of the other half dozen that are out there. I have no better update for them. It almost pains me to say that, too, because we'd like to support a business that is doing business in the township, but the service issues are vast, so it might be time just to, find a replacement. But I did want to report back that I did try to get to the bottom of it, and not very successful endeavor there. But obviously, the problems are sizable. On a separate topic, yesterday, I just wanted to thank several people. I think some in various degrees were thanked. But, we started the meeting today with a disaster declaration, and this township came together quite well particularly on a Sunday. It was of all days, a Sunday when folks aren't necessarily in here in the offices and the like. But I can tell you, Larry, first and foremost, again, I don't know how we would have got through yesterday without your leadership. So I want to thank you. The Exeter Police Department did great work. Many officers came in, I believe, on their day off. They had come in yesterday. Our friends at the fire department, I lost track of the number of calls they were doing, water rescues. I lost track of the number of calls I was informally hearing. As many of you know, my son's a volunteer fireman. I was getting some informal information, but I think it was near 100 calls that were 100 calls made. And they're the high-risk type of when, people can drown and the like out there. But, so that's just, we're eternally grateful for the service providers. We talk about cost of services, but days like yesterday happened, and it happened at a blink on a Sunday. But I also wanted to thank a few more folks under, I think, Sergeant Betts' leadership as our emergency coordinator, coupled with Larry. I know over at Dunn, a center was set up that was manned by a few people, like Cindy Geiger was over there, and Jen Kaufman and your daughter were there. And that was, again, just to make sure folks had somewhere to go. And there was at least one displaced family for a few hours, and that's a horrible day. They had their pets with them, and so you guys really came up big for us, and that's, at the end of the day, why we're here for these type of days. Bob Hoffman was also there representing the fire department, and he was going to stay there as long as need be. So I appreciate everybody's effort, and just wanted to conclude my report by, I could go on for another 2 hours, but I'm not going to. But there was just a lot of people to be thanked, but I hope I named some of the biggest ones to be thanked. So thank you, everybody, for that.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Well deserved.
Mr. Chairman, will you entertain a question?
Why not?
Okay, concerning one of the reports. Are we changing the state rules where it says that requesters are required to explain why the records are sought or the intended use of the records unless otherwise required by law? Are we telling the public, including myself and Mr. Gillef, that we now have to explain ourselves for why we're requesting the documents and what we're going to use them for?
I mean, I would say I just gave a heartfelt thank you to a lot of people, and you come with that crap, Dave. Take a break, my friend, is what I'm going to say. But we're going to move along to public comment on non-agenda items. Thank you for your usual tact.
Yeah, thanks for being professional.
Dave, for goodness sake.
Oh, my God.
Thanks for not showing up yesterday when the electorate needed you the most, Mr. I'm elected. You were watching your television set while our constituents were in need. How's that for professional? We're going to conclude with comments on non-agenda items. Bill or William Clark, I believe this is. If you could kick us off, please, and of course, just state your name and town for the record.
Bill Clark, Exeter Township, Shelbourne Road. Found out this was on the agenda, but I missed it. Didn't know about it. But anyway, MDG Group. I went to the one meeting at the Reading Country Club. I went down and checked that area out where they're going to build this development. And one of the questions came up, I guess it was on your June 13th, 16th, somewhere around there, meeting. And we're talking about traffic flow and how much developments are responsible for that traffic flow. And everybody's talking, and all I'm hearing is state, state, state. Shelbourne Road there is not a state road. That's a township road. And if that trips get up, I'm going to say it's going to exceed 400 probably. There's 340 parking spaces proposed. So I figured there are going to be at least 200 cars there. People leaving in the morning and night. So you're going to have 200 people going one way or coming in. And in my meeting at the country club, there were people there saying they can't even now get out of McDonald's because of the traffic. I can put another 400 cars on that road, and you're not going to have a problem. So now if you say, well, that road needs to be widened, I can just see Home Depot doing away with a road so you can widen the road. Otherwise, township is going to have to probably bank that road. Probably, I guess it's somewhere around 15 to 30 feet down. And at the end side of it is a wetland. So there's all kinds of problems you're going to have. What I would like to see is the township pass an ordinance and say the builder is responsible for any employments on the roads. And that, the state says 70% is the max. I think it should be 100%, and instead of being 5 years, it should be 7. And that way, you will stop the building unless they're willing to pay for it. And now that they, excuse me, I guess they made arrangements with the Shelbourne Square owner for the access to the emergency. As I pointed out when they were saying, well, that should be no deal. As I pointed to the lecture at the Reading Country Club, when I said to them, well, that all depends on how much they're willing to pay. Personally, I would have just nailed them. I would go at 2% a month of their gross, just to make sure that I was really going to make money on it.
Do you go by Bill? Do you go by Bill?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured. Bill, my single biggest concern is the traffic, still to this day. So we'll have to see how that unfolds, but that's my number one concern myself.
The other point I want to point out, I watch a lot of this on video. When I look at not Netflix,
YouTube.
bought on video, but anyway,
YouTube.
I would sure like to see the person at the podium, because all I see is an arm most of the time,
I've gotten
where
many
this is
requests for
located.
that. That's
Good point, Bill. Thank you for sharing it.
Okay. Now, while we're on this deal about traffic, big discussion happened about traffic flow. And I heard one of the townships in the area spent $50,000 for a survey. That's what was said. And later on, when the meeting's going on, all of a sudden I hear, well, maybe we should look at paying $50,000 to $70,000. I think that's the wrong way to go. I much rather, if you're worried about the township people spending money, you start off at 35 and go to 50 and see where your biddings come in. You don't say, well, we're willing to go to 70, so, oh, they're willing to go to 70 at first. I'll up it to 80 and see what happens. That's the wrong way. You make a bidder bid.
Yeah.
Not hand them the money first.
Candidly, I don't recall that, but I'm not.
You can check the video.
It might
It's
not
there.
have. It might not have been me that said it though. So
I don't know.
yeah,
I don't care
yeah.
who it was.
Yeah.
But it was said.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing your comments. Does that conclude them for
Okay,
this
that's
evening?
all I have. I got my 2 minutes. That's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Very good. Thanks. Next, I have Priscilla Gentry, please. Good evening. If you could also state your name and.
Priscilla Gentry, Exeter Township.
Thanks.
I sat here through this entire meeting and was completely in shock. This is a bunch of adults who can't even function as a group. And I noticed that there are theatrics and gestures that are just so unprofessional and unbecoming of an elected group of officials. And I just implore every single one of you to just think about what you're saying and what you're doing. You represent us. We're paying salaries. And this is what we get for our tax revenues that we're paying. I don't understand this. This bothers me. Litigation, I'm just absolutely in shock. I think the township, the people, the residents deserve a heck of a lot better. I just don't know what else to say. I'm just ashamed, and honestly, if I could, I'd leave the township for another township that can get along, that can do things. instead of attack each other and gesture and make theatrics out of a serious assembly. Are we getting anything done? Or are we just spinning our wheels and arguing just because we can? I think it's time that everyone just grows up and does what they promised to do to represent the township. Just think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, Tom Manley, please.
Tom Manley of Exeter. So the lady just spoke behind me, in front of me, spoke my words. I did vote for Mr. Hughes, and I voted for him because of the finances, what I believe is important to me, especially in this day and age with the excessive spending that I believe is going on in this township. I believe it needs to be reined in, and that's what Mr. Hughes speaks about. When you censor him, you're censoring my voice. And I see a lot of things that you claim he does started on this side of the room. I saw it tonight. It started here first. You censor him for what you're doing. We need to do something for conduct. Speak on the phone first, have group meetings, group phone calls. Nail these things out. I see Mr. Hughes bring up questions, finances, and you attack him. I'd just like to see, better conduct. That's all. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Mark Hoffman?
He had to leave. He's got to work.
Okay. That leaves Conrad, if you could bring us some.
Like fell asleep. Long meeting.
Not the longest, however.
Oh, no. No, we've seen some good ones. So I just have a punch list based on the meeting that we've got here. So Chairman Bell, you made the claim that you can unilaterally remove someone from one of these meetings. Can you give us some citation on that?
I can refer to the.
Sure, it's ordinance
That's fair.
23-852, section C, subsection 3.
Could you read that?
Sure. The chairman may request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Further, the chairman may request the assistance of law enforcement officers to remove a disorderly person when his/her conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting.
So from that ordinance, the only thing that you can do unilaterally is to adjourn the meeting. You can't actually remove someone. You can request that they remove themselves. You can request that law enforcement remove them, but you can't remove someone from the meeting. All you can do is adjourn the meeting if you're unhappy with the conduct of the meeting.
I appreciate your legal opinion. I'll take it for what it's worth.
Sure. To Mr. Gardella's comments about the right to know request, I think it is shameful that there is this volume of right to know requests that's being assigned coming from just two people, which I assume are the two that you named. I really would suggest that the residents of Exeter really pump those numbers up and get on board with filing these right to know requests. It's not really fair that the burden for good governance falls on two people that are going to be shamed by the board here for trying to keep people honest. I will say, regarding his claims about whether the law should be changed, the PA Constitution says that harassing politicians is allowed. That's part of our right to free speech, and it's protected by the U.S. and PA Constitutions. So finding information and publishing it, that's what a free press does. Criticizing the government is protected speech. We will continue to do it as long as we find reason to criticize. If you don't like it, don't give us reason to criticize. us requesting supporting documents for claims made in support of budget items, for instance. We just want to know where those numbers come from. And filing a right to know request for supporting documents on how much is being spent at the Reading Country Club, that's well within our right to know that. And having that good information helps us to make decisions about whether or not we think the government is doing a good job making budgets and spending money. To Supervisor Kircher, I think it's odd that you're insulting other members of the board while you complain about being insulted. I just want to point out that it seems to be something that's reciprocal here. It's toxic, and it's I think as a board, that's something that you need to consider. The censorship, the censure has gone toward Mr. Hughes, but it's for behavior that apparently you are also espousing. So I think we should definitely consider the decorum that we're expressing, and the irony of what was said, even on a night when you're passing a censure motion. I think it's something that we should have a little bit more self-awareness for. I'll also say that the censure, as I mentioned before, it was delivered orally. I followed along with the previous censure text. And Vice Chair said that you cannot be censured for the same act twice. And yet you exactly copy and pasted, other than removing duly elected in front of Supervisor Hughes. You didn't say he was duly elected, which you had previously, but you were literally copying and pasting exact lines from the previous censure motion. Yes, there were new ones, but you didn't provide a censure that was of new material. You provided a censure of existing material. Wasn't my words, it was your words that said you could not do that.
Thank you for your opinion.
And then I'd just like to remind the public that Chairman Bell is up for election in November. I think he's demonstrated a certain behavior pattern when it comes to managing these meetings that I hope the residents of Exeter keep in mind come election time, and they consider the behavior of the board and his ability to control it and to manage that, and his willingness to insult the voters as he did without apology today. I think that the voters, I appreciate Volmer understanding that this is an election year for him. I would hope that the chairman.
Could you please wrap it up in 30 seconds?
Yes, please.
See you afterwards, and we'll have a nice time. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment on non-agenda. I would accept a motion
Make a motion to adjourn.
to adjourn.
Second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye? Yeah, very good. Very good. Those opposed? They recorded as 3-0. The meeting adjourned.
Judy.
Judy, as far as like the water?
Hey, Joe.
Yeah, we're working with.
Are we making any progress on that